Reflecting on your relationship, you cannot ignore the lingering uncertainty that defined it. The person you held so dear never truly decided what you meant to them, leaving you suspended in a perpetual limbo, trapped between hope and disillusionment. Instead of taking decisive action, they kept you tethered at the edges of their affection, offering fleeting moments of attention just enough to sustain your hope, yet never enough to provide the certainty you so desperately craved. This cycle of ambiguity, a painful dance of inconsistency, not only confused you, but also took a toll on your sense of self-worth. As days blurred into weeks and weeks stretched into months, the weight of their indecision became unbearable. The trust you had once freely given was chipped away, not in a single catastrophic moment, but through a slow erosion, brought about by unfulfilled promises and half-hearted gestures. Their inaction was a quiet form of neglect, a disregard that gnawed at your confidence and well-being. Each unanswered message, every missed call, every moment where they failed to show up when you needed them most, all served as fuel for your growing self-doubt. You began to question if you had ever been enough, if the love you so generously offered had ever been truly valued. This inner turmoil was especially painful because you are not someone who seeks love in passing flings or shallow connections. Your heart is drawn to deep, meaningful relationships built on trust, growth, and a shared vision of the future. You believe in love that endures, a connection that strengthens over time rather than one that fades under the weight of indifference. Yet the person you loved seemed to exist on a different wavelength, one where relationships were fleeting, where commitment was an afterthought rather than a foundation. The stark contrast in your values forced you to take a hard look at what you were willing to accept and what you could no longer endure. In the end, you made the excruciating choice to distance yourself, not because you no longer loved them, but because you had to protect yourself from the slow unraveling of your spirit. You could not keep pouring love into someone who would not, or could not, meet you halfway. After much soul-searching, you resolved to walk away, to create space until they could offer something real, something unwavering. It was a choice born not out of resentment, but out of the necessity of self-preservation. Despite the pain, a stubborn ember of hope flickered within you, a whisper that perhaps, one day, they would realize the true depth of what you had shared. Unexpectedly, the separation became a turning point, not just for you, but for them as well. Stepping back forced them to see you in a new light, to recognize the strength you had always carried and the resilience that defined you. Distance revealed to them what they had taken for granted. Your absence was no longer something they could ignore, and with that realization came an awakening. They began to understand that what you had shared was not a passing infatuation, but a profound, soul-deep connection, one that held the promise of something lasting and extraordinary. As time passed and self-reflection took hold, they found themselves drawn back to you. The attraction they had once overlooked now burned brighter, no longer shrouded by distraction or self-doubt. They missed your presence, the warmth of your laughter, the way you had always made them feel safe in a world that often felt chaotic. Yet, alongside this renewed desire came something else, the crushing weight of regret. They could no longer deny the pain they had caused, the wounds inflicted by their hesitation, their inability to fully embrace what had always been right in front of them. The solitude of your time apart forced them to confront truths they had long avoided. They began to see with clarity the patterns they had fallen into, the ways in which they had kept you at a distance rather than allowing themselves to fully love you in return. They realized that words alone would never be enough to mend what had been broken. Grand declarations and fleeting apologies would never suffice. What was needed was something far greater, an unwavering commitment to change, a devotion to rebuilding trust through actions, not just promises. Meanwhile, you turned inward, focusing on healing, on reclaiming the parts of yourself that had been neglected in the process of loving someone who could not love you properly in return. You reaffirmed your worth, reestablished your boundaries, and reminded yourself that your well-being could not be dependent on someone else's ability to see your value. Though the door to reconciliation remained slightly ajar, you understood that you could not place your happiness in their hands. You would rise from this experience stronger, more self-assured, whether they returned or not. Then came the moment that had once felt impossible. They reached out. With a sincerity you had longed for but never truly expected, they initiated a conversation, one not rooted in empty words but in genuine remorse. They acknowledged their mistakes, expressed their desire to set things right, and in that moment, you knew this was not just an attempt to reignite something familiar, but a recognition of something they had nearly lost forever. Rebuilding trust was not an easy road. It was slow, painstaking, a process that demanded patience and vulnerability from you both. Yet, with time and persistence, the walls that had once separated you began to crumble. Each step forward became a testament to the love that had never truly disappeared, only hidden beneath layers of fear and misunderstanding. What had once felt fragile now grew into something stronger, more resilient, fortified by hard-earned lessons and a renewed commitment to one another. Yet, even amidst healing, there remained an unspoken truth, one that had lived in your heart for far too long. A love so deep, so consuming, that it defied logic, one that had endured even through the darkest of times. You admitted to yourself that, despite every effort to suppress it, every attempt to move on, your heart had never truly let go. Their smile, the sound of their laughter, the way their presence had once illuminated your world, all remained woven into the very fabric of your being. Each day you carried this longing, this awareness that without them, something within you felt incomplete. No matter how full your life became, there was always a space, a missing piece that no one else could fill. You imagined a future where love was not something feared but embraced, where vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge to something greater. You envisioned a love so profound that it transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. When the moment finally arrived, when you found the strength to put these feelings into words, it was not an easy confession. For so long, you had hidden behind walls of self-protection, unwilling to expose the depth of what you felt. Yet with them, everything was different. They had unlocked something within you, something raw and undeniable. The truth spilled out in trembling honesty, an admission that, no matter the time or distance, no matter the pain endured, your love for them had never wavered. Now, as you both stand on the edge of a new beginning, the path ahead remains uncertain, yet filled with possibility. You see a future where love is not just an emotion, but a conscious choice, a commitment made each day to nurture what has been rebuilt. The journey to this moment was not easy, but every hardship, every lesson, every tear shed in the quiet of night has led to this. Together, you move forward, stronger, wiser, and with a love that has been tested, yet proven unbreakable.